about that one more time. We're
And
talking,
then after that one more time, just kind of end it.
yeah, I wouldn't go there. Okay, so
I love
we're
doing
vibing.
sketch comedy. Love doing sketch comedy. That is just awesome. And I think it's funny. It's like when I write my plays, one of the things that I found is I can visualize what it looks like on stage. I can hear the words in my head. I can see the context of how it plays out. And then I literally will go and read it or perform it myself. And it doesn't sound what it sounds like in my head. I can never step it there until I rehearse it multiple, like 40, 50 times until I finally can figure it out. But then I work with some kids and they will go in, they'll read it, and I'm like, oh, you nailed it. First try. That was awesome. And it's, for me, it's in the head. I just can't get it out on stage or verbalize it correctly, but I can see it in my mind very clear.
Don't the plays though have a certain kind of language, even across plays? Isn't there a language that ties them all together? Not maybe not obviously a language, but an accent or a dialect or a trait or something. Because it seems to me that it's almost like it's that one actor or a group of actors that are portraying a certain kind of person, certainly not in the Shakespeare world, but somebody else that's portraying all of it that has the same voice to all of the plays.
And that's part of the reason why I have my fingers in every single play that I have, every book that's written. It's why I'm on every single one, because I have the vision. I know how they play. I've performed these with kids well over 100 times, all the different plays, and I understand the basic vision of what I'm trying to get across. And the language is pretty simple, and the point of it being relatively simple is because we want it quick, easy to understand, and something that they can play with on stage. The whole point of it is when they get on stage, they're literally playing with the play. I always tell people I paint half the canvas, the kids and the directors paint the other half, because I don't want them to know the lines verbatim if they perform it. I want them to understand the basic storyline and help tell the story to the audience. And I also say if they perform it, because lots of times this is just done as a reader's theater in class, or kids will just read it at home with, let's say, a couple friends and they'll act out a couple parts. So it's been used in so many different ways, but that's the basic gist is my vision over all the plays. So they all have the same familiar feel.
So playing with plays, that would make a great website then.
It would. Playingwithplays.com would even make a better website.
Shame on you from a marketing standpoint to really mention your name and not even throw the .com on there.
Yeah, I know. I should do better next time.
If you have 17 titles, 17th
Mhm.
coming out.
No, 17th was just launched 2 days ago. It is Pride and Prejudice for kids. And I know that's not Shakespeare. I know you quickly figured that one out, because what I've done is I started with Shakespeare. And now that I have a base of people that buy my books, customers that buy my books, is now I've stepped into classics. So I'm still doing some Shakespeare's. I have King Lear and Henry V. They're coming out in the next month. But I'm also doing some classics. So I've done 6 other classics like Oliver Twist, Christmas Carol, Three Musketeers, Treasure Island. So I've done some other ones that are also literature and pieces of work that should be tied into kids. And there are more stories that kids really need to understand and realize the language is so beautiful in these books.
All right, you use the phrase piece of work, but I won't comment. Okay. This is my little spot. So 17 titles. If I gave you a lightning round, could you rattle them off?
Go.
No, you have to go. And
I
can
gotta
you give it
go.
to me in order? I want them in order. Can you give
Wow,
them to me
order.
in order?
I'll
All
do the best
17 in
I
order.
can.
Okay, I'm gonna count. I don't know, but I'm gonna count. Ready?
Oh, okay,
And
okay,
go.
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 Midsummer, Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar, Much Ado About Nothing, Twelfth Night, Taming of the Shrew, The Tempest. Let's see, what am I missing in there? Okay, we'll go to the classics. We have Treasure Island. We have Three Musketeers. We have Jungle Book. We have Oliver Twist. We have Christmas Carol. What am I missing? I'm missing one. Two Gentlemen of Verona. Pride and Prejudice.
I counted 16.
16.
That's
I'm
just
killing myself. Oh, come on, Smalls. You're killing me.
What was the most challenging?
Three Musketeers.
Why?
Three Musketeers because Alexandre Dumas, when he wrote that, it was at a time where you got paid by the word. So he would just constantly embellish and pad his writing way outside of the basic storyline and the arc of the story. It's funny, he wrote chapters on the servants of the Musketeers. And when you watch any of the movies or read any of the shortened pieces of him, none of them ever mention any of those characters. So it was part of what he did. And he also sold them by chapter. So he had to have a hook. So he would put it out there. And then if they wanted the next chapter, they have to pay for the next chapter, a week or a month later, whenever he released it, very periodically. So it's part of the reason it's so big and there's so many words. I remember when I was first reading that, I read for days. And I'm like, okay, I'm at least halfway. And I looked down at my Kindle and it was like 15%. Like, are you kidding me? And that's the part of the killer of a Kindle is you never know what page you're on because it's always, that thin little tablet. And so truncating that down to a 20-minute, 15-minute piece, succinct, was actually very, very challenging.
Have you had plays on all of them that you've
What do
been
you mean by
involved
that?
with? Have you been involved with plays with reenactments of all of your books?
You mean me personally?
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I've performed every single one that I've written. And when I say I performed them, I've directed them with kids to perform them. Pride and Prejudice, that's been released 2 days ago. We are starting that one in 2 weeks. I'm doing a class on Pride and Prejudice for kids, and we're going to be performing that.
Which one's your favorite?
Hamlet. Hamlet by
Which one's
far. And
why?
the reason why Hamlet is mainly because there's dead bodies all over the stage at the end. And kids love landing on each other and dying. It's hilarious. The parents are laughing. Also, the story of Hamlet is so deep and so amazing because it's about a man who's he's confused, he's contemplating having to kill someone, but then he's like, why should I kill someone? It's this such conflict and self-conflict and self-thought, and it's it really just reflects the human nature so well.
What's a kid's favorite that you've experienced?
Julius Caesar, they love all getting dressed in togas. It's hilarious. And all it is just bed sheets tied around their shoulder and a gold rope around their waist. So it's an inexpensive costume. And kids love it because they're all just running around wearing togas with clothes underneath. And they have a blast with it.
That's interesting.
Although, I'm sorry, I'm also going to just say, although Macbeth, kids love to be the witches. And there's nothing cooler than seeing three creepy witches up there, all painted in green, wearing their witch's hat, and they're doing their witch's cackle. It's double, double, toil and trouble. And it's just fun watching them spout off all the Shakespeare as they're doing the witches. So that one's really cool too.
What kind of challenge is the setting, the props, the costumes?
Not really. You make it as small or as big as you want it to be. I am a very minimalistic person in the sense of directing the plays. I'll have a couple accent pieces for the kids. I'll let them play with their own makeup because it's part of the learning process. And then we just go on stage, and it's about the kids being on stage. It's not about a perfect performance. It's about understanding the story. It's about having fun socially and with growth with drama. But other people, I've seen them do elaborate stages and elaborate sets, and they'll do big backdrops, and that's fine as well. You make it as big or as little as you want, but I'm a very black box kind of set, very minimal props.
Where do you want to take playing with plays?
I want to is having every kid in the world know and like Shakespeare. And it's funny, it's this kind of came about 8 months ago when I worked with a lady named Ginger out of Kansas City. She does a homeschool co-op where she'll take three of my plays and do a Shake It Up with Shakespeare night with about 300 audience members and three different groups of kids, and they'll perform the three plays. But she also started another organization called shehopes.org, and she goes to Kenya and she'll go to India, and she starts libraries in these schools that don't have libraries. And one of the books she brings is are some of my books. And she sent me a photo once of this little kid who was dressed in his school uniform. He walks from the slums to school, and he's looking at, I believe it's Romeo and Juliet, and you see the smile on his face, and it just melts my heart. And looking at that, it just made me realize, I'm like, there's so many people I can reach and just put a smile on their face with Shakespeare. What a cool thing. I mean, when kids love the way I do the Shakespeare and they want to jump into the actual text themselves, we've crossed the plane of forcing Shakespeare on them. They're opening the door to themselves and wanting to read Shakespeare themselves. And that alone is amazing.
You mentioned on your website that you have a series of posts on why drama is important in schools. Tell me a little bit about that. What brought that about, and what kind of effect you hope that it has?
That kind of came to me about a year ago when I was talking to a teacher, and the teacher told me, I'd love to do these plays, but our principal just cut the funding because they don't feel drama is important in their school. And then I'm finding out that that happens actually more frequently than I even realize. And as we all know, a lot of schools, budgets are hard, things are being cut all the time. But I wanted to give the teachers some arsenal, some ammo to be able to go to the principals and go, hey, this is why we do it. And so I started picking out some of the key points that I feel are important that come from drama. And once I realized this, it opened my eyes to listen to my parents, the kids that I teach, and I'm finding out all the different reasons that they're using it. And from my experience and seeing what kids react and how they react and what they get out of performing not just Shakespeare, but just drama in general, it's amazing. And one of the key things that's so important is empathy. Um, it's really neat to play a part, and you play a part that you may be the villain or you may be the victim or some other part, but you have to kind of get into that role a little bit, and you have to empathize with that character in order to play that part. So if you do a decent job or even just look at it, you start feeling what other people feel. And that's something that we're missing. And you don't even get that anywhere. They don't teach a class on it. It's so hard to even learn that. And here is drama is one of those beautiful things that actually will teach that. And that alone is amazing. There's also comprehension. I work with so many kids, and I've talked to special ed teachers and uh, English as a second language teachers, ESL teachers that use my books strictly to help the comprehension for the kids. And it was funny. I had a teacher write me once, and she said, I'm using your plays because every time I introduce a story or a book to the kids, they're like, well, we've already read that yesterday. We're not going to do it again. And she said, aha, I'm going to have them do a play. Therefore, they have to read it every single day. And so they comprehend this. The more times you read it, the deeper you understand the story and the bigger picture you see of that story. And that's just another facet of drama of what it brings to you. So there's so many different pieces, and the Why Drama series is really about all these different nuggets that come from being in drama.
Cool. I think everything is there. I'm thinking that what I'll do is well, no, maybe we need to know another little piece about how to contact you, how to get more information. And then what I'll do in the end is I'll put a little something on there saying, you know, tell me more about the My Drama series. We're going to blah blah blah. In the following episodes, I can put a little something in there afterwards. But I think maybe that's like an off us conversation. Um, okay, so maybe we'll just do now. Is there anything else that you want to include that we didn't talk about? Because I mean, I can put it back wherever. Do
Right.
we?
No, no, I'm thinking what you're saying. No, no, it's no. I mean, I just hope I sounded decent.
Sounded good. You sounded really good.
Um, I'll just throw this in there. My plays. One of the cool things about the way I wrote it is my plays can be performed if you want at a school. They can be just read in a class. I once had a teacher teaching about Richard III, and instead of going through all the characters and just writing it on the board, kinesthetically, you teach it with drama. She had all the kids read my Richard III, and they got up, they died, they laughed, but they understood the concept and the characters with Richard III, an actual historical time and place from the play, from my play. So it was an educational tool. And she only did it once in class, but the kids got the drift. I also I've seen kids do what I call backyard Shakespeare, and that'll be 5 or 8 kids at a home, and they decide to just put on a performance, whether that's on book or they work over a number of weeks and they just perform on the back deck for their family and friends. It's a fun way to do it. And even my kid, before we go up and visit family, he'll grab like 5 or 6 of one script, and then he'll hand out roles with all the family members, and it's a fun family reunion type thing where everybody, kind of readers theater, they stand up, they act out their little parts, and everybody has fun with it and everybody laughs. So these are just so many different ways that it can actually be used.
Sounds good, man. Um, Side note, you should have like an app or something where we can, as a family, all have our phone and then we all pick a part and then we all just get like our little part highlighted and we speak. That would be really cool.
Say that again.
Like if you had like an app or just, like a mobile friendly website that you would each choose your role. Like we all have our smartphones sitting around the table. You each choose your role, and then your part comes on when it's your turn to speak, and it goes around. And so you just have your script in front of you, but you can do it around a table.
Huh. Never thought about that. That might work.
You've thought about it. You just didn't realize.
Yeah. Well, I come to you for the brains.
I got I got a lot of brains. Okay, so do you think you want to just now go into, hey, how do we get more information on how to on how to reach you, that kind of thing?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So here we go. So Brennan, obviously there's a lot of application, not only with teachers, but parents and grandparents and everybody. People that want to know more about the books that you have and the plays that you do, how do they contact you?
Yeah, they can find me at playingwithplays.com. That's my website. In case you missed it, playingwithplays.com. Or they can just email me, Brendan at playingwithplays.com. I work with teachers literally all over the world all the time. I coach, I mentor, and I mean, I've broken down all the different aspects of how to do a 6 or 8 week performance, from the intro to the death auditions. That's what I call it, because kids love to act like they're dying, to the actual performance on the last day. You can find everything. I've got blog posts there. Everything's on the website, playingwithplays.com.
That's great, Brendan. Thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you more.
All right. Hey, thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me, and I hope I can get to talk with you again.
Cool. Okay. All right, man. I think
Cool.
let me see. I think we're right at, let's see, where are we at time wise? 36 minutes total. Cool. We did good, man.
All right.
When I say like 35, we're at 36. We're good.
When I say we're at 35, we're at 36.
Well, I said earlier I was shooting for 35 and we did 36 of content. So that's not bad. All right, brother, man. I got to stop this. Stop.